highlight this. Aristotle named epic as one of the major kinds of poetry in the Poetics, a book that he wrote. Meaning by kind, it would seem something more basic than external form. The 4 kinds he describes or specifies, epic, tragedy, comedy, and ceramic poetry, offer imitations of actions, complex images of our 4 primary human emotions, implying modes of viewing by which fundamental affective stances may be extended into the entire pattern world of the imagination. Stop. Okay, that's all we're going to do on page 6. Go to page 7. Yay, Ren. Good job. I need subscribers. Shooting for 10 subscribers, y'all. Help me get there. Okay. Page 7. Top of 7. You see where it says, according to Scaliger, the second line. Highlight this. According to Scaliger, in epic poetry, which describes the descent, life, and deeds of heroes, all other kinds of poetry have a norm so that they turn to it for their regulative principles. Keep highlighting. Sir Philip Sidney, too, placed epic at the peak of poetic and ethical achievement. The lofty image of such worthies are portrayed in heroic poetry that most inflameth the mind with desire to be worthy and informs with counsel how to be worthy. Stop. All right. What this is saying is that epics show us how to be worthy and why we should be worthy. So basically, get yourself a hero and be them. All right? How many people grew up wanting to be Katniss Everdeen? But there's a bunch of girls said yes because she's awesome, she's strong, she stands up for her community, I love her. Right now, my kids, my 7-year-old son and my 5-year-old son, they want to be Superman. They want to be any Avenger, Black Panther. They want to be any character. Why? Because they're strong. They can do anything. They stand up for people. They take care of their people, and they fight the bad guy, right? So epics show us how to do that, how to be good, how to express those virtues in life. Whatever the state of epic theory, epic praxis was modeled on the external aspects of Virgil's Aeneid. Stop. Okay, so praxis, if you'll circle, well, I wasn't highlighting, sorry. If you'll circle praxis, praxis means practice plus action. Basesh, that's funny you said that because my little guy wants to be Robin, my 5-year-old, almost 5-year-old boy, and his brother wants to be Batman. They have costumes and everything. I spent a lot of money on costumes. All right. So praxis is practice plus action. Let's see here. So the rest of this paragraph is going to give the recipe for epic. All right. So it says, if you look at the number 6 right there in the middle of the paragraph, highlight this. Even minor characteristics of the Aeneid were set down as rules for epic. Such conventions as invoking the muse, stating the theme, devising a sequence of questions and answers, beginning in medias res, depending upon supernatural agencies, and dividing the work into 12 books. All right, so those are the rules for epic. And it even says, these came to provide what Brooks and Wimsatt have characterized as a recipe for epic in vacuo. So recipe for epic in a vacuum. How do you write an epic? Well, you invoke the muse. So you say, dear God, help me. You say what you want. That's the theme. Here's what's going on. Here's what I need to happen. You devise a sequence of questions and answers. You begin in medias res, which if you'll circle that, it means in the middle of things. So you don't begin at the beginning. You begin right in the middle, tell the backstory, meet back up in the middle, and then go forward. And like the Aeneid is divided into 12 books or chapters, whereas something like the Iliad and the Odyssey are 24 books. By Milton's time, the supreme task of the poet was still considered to be the composition of national epic worthy of comparison with products of antiquity, like the Iliad and the Odyssey. In effect, epic seemed not only the crown of the language, but the necessary emblem of a nation's worth. The era following Milton, so let's say that mid-18th century, was virtually obsessed by the desire to produce official heroic poetry. Highlight this. Dryden spoke of epic as the greatest work of human nature and went on to declare that to prefer tragedy to epic was to prefer a mushroom to a peach. Nevertheless, for all the adulation, circle adulation, of the heroic, no genuine epic in the high mimetic style was forthcoming in Europe after Milton. Stop. What does this mean? That basically starting in the 18th, 19th centuries, epics couldn't be written. Like, we didn't write epics anymore. So, why do you think that is? Because science. Because we had explanations for things. Because in the 19th century, we figured out that lightning is caused by electricity in the air, not Zeus's thunderbolt. So if you can't explain it as something the gods are doing, if you have a logical explanation for it, you've taken the gods out of the situation, right? And that's really good for certain things, but not everything can be explained with science. Just all there is to it. So lightning can be explained with science, all right? The human soul cannot. And so if you reduce the human soul to a science, then you've taken the divine out of it. Does that make sense? Okay. Turn to page 8. Go to the last paragraph. Poetic interest shifted in the 19th century to the lyric, and throughout the last 2 centuries, poets such as Wordsworth, Whitman, Tennyson, Pound, Eliot, Williams, Olson, and Walcott, among others, have attempted to enlarge the lyric's resources into the scope of epic. Highlight this. Lacking a community, a hero, and a myth tale with which to work, however, most of these efforts remain long sequences of lyrics rather than epic. Stop. In other words, you can't make novels and you can't make just regular stories into epic. You have to have a community, you have to have a hero, and you have to have a myth. Think of Star Wars. Okay? That's an epic. All the way around. You have a community, you have a hero, or several, and you have a myth with which to work. And what is the divine in Star Wars called? The Force. That's the divine. That's the connection. You have all these horizontal stories of human stories, like horizontal planes of things. The divine is the force, and people's trying to capture the force to either good or ill. Okay. Top of 9, please. Okay, we're going to look at that full paragraph starting with the word although. Although the epic had certainly before this time dealt with mass movements of people and their entrance into history, its conception of history had been quite different. Highlight this. The Exodus and the Aeneid, containing the most telling examples of the formation of a people into a nation, depict the movement toward a destiny of fulfillment, toward a new Jerusalem or a new Troy, as the outgrowth of human and divine cooperation. Stop. So what does that mean? Someone earlier in the chat was talking about how every story in the Bible is basically epic. Particularly when there's movement from one place to another, and it's a struggle from taking the old things and putting them into the new things, or moving into a new place. So when the Israelites have to leave Egypt and go find the promised land. And Moses is the epic hero, and the people are sort of almost revolting. They want food. They want to create gods. They want to melt all the gold and create a calf, like the golden calf to worship. And he's like, no, you guys stop. We have to do these things. We have to move towards this new Jerusalem, this new promised land. And they themselves, the ones that are being saved, are holding themselves back. In contrast, the historical novel reduces history to, where am I at? Material phenomena, with no outcome envisioned except that produced by varied human purposes pitted against natural forces. Highlight this. So exclusively a horizontal arena precludes the epic extension of causes into any sort of divine purpose. No wonder, then, that the historical novel has hardly been satisfactory as epic, and we must return to a strangely assorted mixture of novels. Stop. Most of them related in some sense to Cervantes, who wrote Don Quixote, and Fielding to find its real continuance. Works by Gogol, Melville, who wrote Moby Dick. Dostoevsky, so think of The Idiot, Crime and Punishment, and Twain, later Faulkner, Caroline Gordon, Garcia Marquez, Morrison, and many others from the third world countries capture the inner drive as well as the reach of the epic vision. Okay, so let's highlight that. Highlight, capture the inner drive as well as the reach of the epic vision, not only fitting into the epic, but broadening and extending our understanding of the genres. Highlight to the end of the paragraph, please. Many latter 20th century novels in particular demonstrate the cosmic scope of epic. They have access to the gods, to the myths of their people, and by retrieving myth in an emerging world that stands on liminal ground, they go beyond the exclusiveness of that myth to envision the meaning and direction of history. Stop. Circle the word liminal. Liminal sounds like limit, right? So what the word liminal means is a place of transition. You hit the limits of one place and you move into the next place. So again, think of the guy standing with 2 feet, 1 foot in city, 1 foot in chaos, and right in between there is called the liminal space. Remember your drawing that I had you guys do in your notebook? So if you take the person and you set him right on the edge of the city, he's got 1 foot in the city so he can see the myths of the people. He's got all those old things, and he's trying to move everything forward. He's in a liminal space, a place of transition. Later on in this essay, Dr. Cowan's going to talk about piercing the veil. So when you think of the word veil, you think of marriage, right? Okay, so I'm married. I don't know if any of you are, but when you walk down the aisle, your dad, dun, 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 dun. Okay, your dad walks you down the aisle, and you have this veil. I have a Chipotle napkin in this case. Is that scary? It's kind of freaky, huh? And then your husband-to-be lifts the veil, and you move from one thing to the other thing. You move from being your father's daughter who gave you away to being your husband's wife. So you transition from one event, one thing in your life, childhood, to now womanhood. Okay? Makes sense? It's the same reason people have quinceañeras. So you go from being a child to a woman. All right? And it's high school graduation is a piercing of the veil. You go from being taken care of by your parents and, doing the K through 12 thing to being a college student or wherever, whatever you're going to do after high school. And then after college, you move on to a job or then you find a husband and you get married and then you have kids and, there's just these movements from one part of your life to the other. You've heard of a midlife crisis? To me, a midlife crisis is not wanting to leave the old world that you were in. You want to stay, like, it's super weird to see a 45-year-old dude just like busting out some like rap and really loud in their car, because you're like, you should have left that place already. Like, it's cool for us to do it, but you're too old for that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do listen to a little bit of gangster rap on the way to school every once in a while. Okay. So, let's see, what time is it? 1:45. I'm going to stop my